So you walk into your big box store or garden centre and you get something like this that says complete indoor potting mix or premium indoor potting mix. And you think to yourself, perfect, I'm going to grab that. That is all I need for my plants. Right? Wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, not quite. Now, truthfully, I actually do use this bag, this exact brand here. I love it. It's a great foundation for my soil mixes. But the lie is this bag telling you you can use it exactly as it is. And using something like this straight on a chunky rooted plant like a monstera is like trying to run a marathon in a heavy winter coat. You can do it, but you're not going to like it. But first, let's perform a bit of a bag autopsy on this soil. So what are we actually paying for? Well, most of these bags can be up to 80, even 90% peat moss or 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Now, peat is great at holding water. In fact, for me, it's too great. Once it gets wet, it compresses, it gets heavy. It's like your roots are wearing a soaking wet winter coat in the middle of a 40-degree Aussie summer. It holds a lot of water. It's just too sludgy for my liking personally on its own. And then you have 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, which is a little bit more sustainable. It definitely holds water, but it has absolutely no nutrients, like zero nutrients. So for me, it's just a little bit of a space filler for the soil. I think you can do better. You can get little wood chunks. They're okay, but they'll say they can be used as a filler. In some really cheap bags, you can find rubbish and plastic and stuff. I found that in some, which is why I like this version. And if you grab the soil in your hands and, you really feel it, can you feel it's a little bit greasy? The soil feels a little greasy. That is something called wetting agent. And it kind of just does what it says on the tin. It keeps it wetter for longer. So think of this bag like the flour in a cake, right? It's a great start, but you still need the eggs, the butter, the sugar, please some cream cheese frosting, definitely my favorite. Dirt, but the roots, they actually don't want all soil, they want air. I promise you, once you start thinking about the roots like lungs, instead of just like straws for water, your black thumb will disappear very quickly. Your plants don't just drink through their roots, they breathe. And in the wild, these plants are like climbing trees and they're sitting on loose forest floor, which gets a lot of leaves, but they're sitting at the top, so it's still very airy. And vitally, the soil needs air pockets. When you use that fine, heavy soil direct from the bag or just direct peat moss, you're basically holding a pillow over your plant's face. There's no air, the roots can't breathe, they can't respire, and they die basically. And then bacteria can move in, and that's how you get the dreaded root rot. And we definitely don't want that, do we? In fact, let me show you what I mean. So I have two pots here. The one on the left, that is the straight potting mix. And you can see the water is just sitting there as I pour it through. It's just sitting on the top. It's not drinking very easily. It's almost drowning. And it takes a good full minute to pull through all of that water. And while it sits there, you're cutting off every bit of oxygen to those lungs we just talked about. Now, if you have a look at the other pot, the chunky mix, you can see how the water just goes through so easily. It's not just about the drainage, it's also about the air that's getting sucked down into the soil behind the water. Like, that's the aha moment to me. That's how you grow really big leaves, by getting a nice solid mix of enough water and enough air in your potting mix. So now, once you understand that kind of like the breath theory, the fact that the roots need air and oxygen, building your own mix can be a lot easier. And to make it even easier for you, I've narrowed it down to 4 specific recipes that you can use over and over again. The first one I'm calling my 𝗏𝗏 method, if you know what 𝗏𝗏 stands for. It is literally just 60% of a good quality potting mix, and then add 40% Perlite, which I have hiding at the back here. It is the bare minimum that I would do, but it's still 100% better than this bag alone for most of your indoor plants. The second one is my Aroid powerhouse mix. I absolutely love this thing. This is my go-to for 80% of my plants in my home because I have a lot of tropical plants. And this is 30% of potting mix base. It's got orchid bark, it's got perlite, charcoal and worm castings. It's a chunky, very airy, light mix. It still holds a lot of water for the plants, and my tropical plants absolutely love this. It's like, like they love this thing. I've worked on it for a long time. I have a whole video around this mix if you'd like to see it. I'm just going to leave the link for you in below to watch that after this one. Mix number 3, I also have down on the floor here. This is my lush Alocasia mix. So Alocasias need thirsty but breathable. And I actually use the same ingredients, most of the same ingredients as the Aroid mix you just heard, but in very different specific ratios to keep the structure like open and holding enough water, but still airy. So those thick roots can really move around. And they do like a lot of space, these Alocasias, in their pots. And actually there's one secret ingredient I also add to this specific mix to stop that dreaded Alocasia 3-leaf drop. If you're an Alocasia lover, you know what I'm talking about. And I've actually shared the full breakdown of this inside the Leafy Legends area if you want to go have a look. It's a bit of a secret recipe. And then mix number 4, I'm kind of calling the Ignore Me mix, is basically for succulents. And look, if your succulent mix looks like plain dirt, then you've probably got it wrong. So go for a lot of grit, like perlite or stones or anything, 30% grit, and then 70% specific, 70% succulent specific soil. It's really hard to say, which is this stuff. And you can see I love this brand as well. So succulent mix is probably the only one I don't use this bag for. Now, if you want all of the exact measurements for these plant mixes, the secret Alocasia add-on, and a couple more mixes, there's a printable cheat sheet in my Leafy Legends members area. The link is in the show notes below, or just press the join button if you want to have a look and see more. But I know, not everybody wants to be a scientist in their living room like me. So if you're not ready to complicate your big mixes just yet, you can still try to power up your current soil with just these 3 ingredients. I've got them here. So the first one here is perlite, as I shared before. Now, I know some people prefer pumice, and in fact, I actually prefer pumice, but it's really hard to get. And pumice to me is slightly better because it holds a really great ratio of water and air. But let's be real, perlite is at every big box store, it's at every budding store here in Australia, and it works. And it's the cheapest way to add air back into that dense bag of soil. So perlite is probably the #1 recommendation. Number 2 is orchid bark. God, I love this stuff. I don't know why. It's just, I have it in almost every mix, and it's just the right level of adding chunkiness to all of my mixes. This is the secret to me to having lush leaves. It gives the roots something to grab onto like it is in nature, and without this, your roots are almost just floating in mud in a way. I love orchid bark, highly recommend it. I don't know what I would do without it. It's almost in every mix, as I said. And then number 3 is worm castings. I love worm castings as well. To me, this is nature's gold. It's like the fertilizer that just is not going to burn your roots. It's really natural, and it adds that extra life that store-bought chemical fertilizers and that sometimes are missing. Quick tip, I also love adding charcoal, even though I can't say the word charcoal. I have heard some people say that it kills good bacteria as well, but honestly, I've done a bit of research and there's nothing that I can see that says that it's bad. Don't use charcoal from a barbecue. You want the very pure stuff, so horticultural charcoal. It acts like a filter for your soil. It keeps the good stuff in, and it keeps the soil like in a sweet, natural state and stops it from getting that icky, swampy smell. It's very scientific, isn't it? It's a win in my books, honestly. It just helps keep the soil fresh and clean. But here's the thing, none of those things are going to save you if your plant is already in the danger zone. So just quickly, there are 5 red flags that you need to look out for in your pot right now. So flag number 1 is hydrophobic soil, like my poor jade plant here. So if water is just sitting on the top when you water it like a puddle, or maybe it's running down the sides really quickly, the plant itself might be getting water to the edges, but the roots in the middle of that pot will still be bone dry. So a simple trick actually is to add a single drop, one tiny drop, it goes very far, of mild dish soap. Castile soap works really well for plants, so I highly recommend this one. I use it all the time. Just add it to your watering can and then water the plant. And that'll help break up the water's surface tension a little bit so the soil can start to absorb moisture again. Basically, your plant has just forgotten how to drink. And then once you've given it a water, pick up the whole plant and put the whole pot into a big thing of water itself. Get the plant to slowly drink up all of the water from the bottom, it's called bottom watering, and let the soil fully rehydrate again over the next couple of hours. Flag number 2, fungus gnats. Freaking hate these things. Those little icky flies that just swap past your face even when you don't want them to. They only live in soil if the soil is staying wet for too long. So if you have them, it just means your soil is too dense. Flag number 3 is yellowing bottom leaves. Now, one old yellowing leaf is pretty normal, but if you've got quite a few, this might be the first sign of suffocation. And again, I'd go back to looking at hydrophobic soil or just how you're watering your plants. Flag number 4, the soil is shrinking. If your soil looks like it has pulled away from the sides of the pot, it means it's lost its structure and probably the soil is really dry and perhaps really old. And then flag number 5 is mold on top of your plants. Not very nice, but it's not always a bad thing. It just means that your airflow around your plant is too low. So just watch out for that one. At the end of the day, soil isn't just dirt, it's the home for your plant. I always call it the foundation of the plant. And once you get that airflow right around those roots, you've just given your plants the best possible start they can have. But after all of this, I have to be honest with you, soil is the foundation, but it's not the whole story. Especially if you're an alocasia lover like me, these drama queens can be picky for sure. You can have the perfect chunky leafy loving style soil mix, and those beautiful dramatic leaves can still break your heart if you don't get the rest of the areas right. So if you want to see exactly how I handle the other half of this alocasia puzzle, more than just the soil, then I'm going to put all of my secrets into this video just here for you. So thank you very much for joining me today on this dirt deep dive. Have an amazing week full of leaves, love and laughter as always, and I will see you in this next video. See you later guys. Bye.